what feels good, what drives you, and just immerse yourself into it. So listen to podcasts, read books. Like, it's just like working out, right? If you really want to reach a goal, what are you going to do to sacrifice to get to that goal? Eating better, making wiser choices. And I think with your business, it's the same thing. How can I'm a tool to my business. How can I sharpen my tool to be the biggest asset for your business? You set the tone for the company. So how you are, the way you come into the business, the vibe that you get in, all your employees are going to feed off of that. So it's really important that you're sharp into that. I'm given a really good opportunity that a lot of people don't. I need to take advantage of it, and really for the good. And how are you going to do that? And so it was like more of a test to myself of like, this is what you have, what are you going to make of it?
Welcome back to another episode of the Amiki Society with our segment, Oye, ¿a qué te dedicas?
Woo! We're back. We took a week off, Risa, but we're back.
Yes, we did, but we're officially back, stronger than ever. And today we have an awesome guest. So we have Laura. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Is it Laura or Laura?
Oh,
what do you
true.
prefer?
It depends. You know, like work setting, it's Laura.
Okay.
But
you keep it professional at
yes,
work.
yeah. Family, it's Laura. Or my nickname or family name is Reina. But, you know, Mexicans have all these names.
Okay,
like
gotcha.
20 names.
I mean, you could have got a worse one, right? Like the Mexican household has like really bad nicknames, you know? They got the gordo, the flaca, the
feo or something.
But your nickname is Reina.
Yes.
Okay, so that's not your name. It's just a nickname.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Because when I heard about you, some people would say Reina and some people would say Laura. And I was like, I don't know who Reina is, but I'm talking about Laura.
Yeah.
So now it all makes sense. I'm like, okay, Laura is Reina.
Yeah.
Okay, so Laura is basically your professional name. And then Laura's
my legal name. Yeah, my birth certificate name.
Yeah, but Laura is just like the way you introduce yourself to, like, if you're, you know.
Yeah, just out.
To make it easier. It's like me with Bree, but my name is Brisa.
Exactly.
You know, but we go with Bree.
Exactly.
But yeah. Okay, so you are officially initiated into the Amigi Society.
Yay! I'm so excited. Thank you.
You're officially part of it. And we're so excited
great.
to hear all about your journey, you know, navigating, owning a business in the towing world, right?
Yes.
Which is something that we probably don't ever really, you know, think about often until we have to get towed. So we're so excited to learn about your journey. And I remember when I first heard about you, I just heard about you from your sister, and you just gave total boss vibes. Like I was like, okay, she's totally like a boss girly. Like we have to get her on here.
Yeah.
We need her part of this society.
Yeah.
So So without further ado, Laura. Yeah. Oye, ¿a qué te dedicas?
Well, thank you for having me here. I'm really appreciative. I'm so nervous, but I'm excited to be here because I was like, oh my God, a podcast. They want to know about me. I'm like, I'm not on social media. So to be like in front of the camera and stuff like that is a little intimidating. But I'm 32 years old and I own and operate a towing company in the city of Ontario. And it's a 24-hour business, 7 days a week, 365 days. So, I mean, as long as cars are moving, we're moving too. And so I took over the business. I purchased this business back in April of 2022. And you would think like, well, how did you get into that? No, I did not wake up one day and say, I want to own a towing company. No, I don't think most people do that.
I did. When I was young, I was like, I want to own a towing company.
I mean, is it because you saw cars or something? Like, what would make someone want a towing company, you know?
He probably thought they got to take the cars and they got to keep him.
Yeah. No, so I was like, what am I going to do? I guess, you know, you go to college and you're like, you go to college because your parents didn't have that opportunity. And so they're like, we didn't have this opportunity. You need to go to college. But they don't really have the resources or know what to guide you and what
Yeah.
to do. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to college because that's just the next thing to do. And also because I wanted to get away from my family.
Oh, you
and
need
figure.
that.
We all did that.
Yeah, especially when you're if you have strict parents,
Yeah.
that's like your way out to have like a little bit more freedom.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm like the oldest of 4 girls, so I had to take care of everybody. And I was like, you know what? It's me time. I'm gonna apply away.
I like how college was your me time.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just gonna go away. And I grew up in a small town, and like high school wasn't like my best experience. So I was like, it's a fresh start. Like, let's do this. So went to college, and for me, college was like more of a social experiment than like an educational. Yeah, so like Thirsty Thursdays, Fridays, and all that.
Yeah,
And
they
so,
told me they had to pull you out of the bars.
Wait,
they would like take you out.
Probably.
What university did you go to?
Cal State Fullerton.
Oh,
And,
Cal State Fullerton.
yeah.
That's a nice campus.
Yeah,
I've been to
yeah.
that. They have like a little greenhouse, right?
Yeah,
It's, like,
yeah,
really beautiful.
Yeah, the little park.
And then there's
there.
like downtown Fullerton.
Downtown Fullerton.
Where all the
She
things
knows
are.
about downtown Fullerton. Don't get
DTF.
us started.
DTF.
She's having like flashbacks right now. They're going through her head.
The best times of my life. And so went there, and the last year of college, I was like, okay, I really need to think about what am I doing here.
Yeah.
So I really like psychology and therapy and stuff. And I was like, a lot of my family would make use of this, so I should do something in this field. So I did communications and psychology. And I said, when I get out of college, then I'll take a year off and then I'll get a master's and go into that, because you have to get a master's for psychology. And so I graduate, and I remember I graduated like a Friday, and then my dad was like, looked at me and said, okay, are you ready to start work on Monday? Because little backstory, sorry, it's just to give you more context. My grandfather, my dad's dad, they came here and they started their own tow company in 1978 in East LA. And so they're immigrants from Mexico. And my dad started working, I think, at the age of 6 or something. Wow. Yeah. And he's just always been a hustler. It's like in his blood. He would work at the gas station and stuff like that. And he started working with his dad at 15. And then eventually they just, they had one tow truck, and he had 3 sons, and 2 of the sons were really like workaholics and helped my grandfather with his business. And so fast forward to now, like 44 years later, something like that, they own one of the most successful tow companies in Southern California. Yeah. They have over 10 locations, a fleet of over 100 trucks. Wow. And multiple police contracts, and very well known. So it's big shoes to fill in, but my dad he had 4 girls. He didn't have any boys. So I was like, okay, I'm going to work with you on Monday. I didn't have a job. I mean, I have a degree. I don't have a job. I was like,
I should be grateful for this
Yeah,
opportunity.
I should
Let's
take the
it.
job. Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, well, I can't turn down a job. And so I started there August 2015. And yeah, I worked there for 7 years. It just was one of those things where it didn't feel like work, because it was like a family business, and I was just so invested in it. And I just took over like HR department. Well, they didn't even have an HR department.
Yeah.
Like, I helped construct that.
We gotta have rules around here.
Yeah. And so that dynamic, it was so tricky too, because him and I would always butt heads. And I'm like, this is how you do it in school. And he's like, this is how I've done it for 30 plus years. How are you going to tell me? But life evolves, right? So it's like the way they did business back then was with a handshake. And now it's like, what's the contract like? What's the agreement like? It's a whole different ball game. So, I got invested with him in that, and I was like, okay, so 7 years, I got so invested into it. And then the opportunity came where another tow company was selling, and him and I talked, and he was like, I think this is a really good opportunity for you to see if this is something that you really want to do and see what you can do with it. And it was a way for me to separate myself from him and see what I'm able to do. So that's how I basically got into this towing industry and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so to take it back a little bit, at what point were you like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to go back for my master's. Like, I think I'm liking this. I think I see a future with this.
I think like right away.
Right
like,
away?
Right within the month.
Yeah.
I was just like, there's so much here that there's to be done. And it was just like, I felt like the legacy, the blood of like my grandfather and stuff, I felt like the obligation, like I need to carry this on for our family. Like they've worked so hard, and that's what motivated me. You know, everyone has their why, like why do you do this? And that was my why. Like my family has worked really hard to create something so beautiful. Like how can I contribute? Like what can I do to be part of that? And so I think that's what fueled me. And I was like, you know, owning a business, it comes with a lot of headaches, but also there's a lot of rewards. Like you have your own rules and stuff like that. So I was just like, do I want to go get in $100,000 debt? I don't think so. So that's basically where I decided to stay and just really, and it's a little more comfortable. I'm gonna be real. So
she went from thirsty Thursdays to tow truck Tuesdays, right? I know. Wasn't expecting it. But that's just the way life works sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna say that as soon as I got into it, I was totally immersed. I was 22 years old, so I had to evolve as a person too and mature and realize like, hey, you can't be calling off. And him and I would butt heads, like just because and he's really strict and old school, so he was just like, just because you're my daughter doesn't mean that you can get away with this. So he treated me as an employee. He would write me up. I would get suspended. I would get sent home.
Call HR. Text yourself.
So he was strict with me, and I'm so glad he was, because now I'm so thankful for that, because it's made me who I am today and like really value that work ethic. So
that's kind of a similarity that you have with her, because you both have entrepreneurial dads that are in like male dominated industries. Did you kind of feel the same thing with your dad?
Yeah, definitely 100%. You know, and you do kind of like you talked about, kind of that pressure. You kind of have these big shoes to fill, because you know how successful your dad is. So you're kind of like, okay, you have this pressure to also be successful. But in a way, it's kind of like you have to make sure that you're looking at it in a positive way, in a way where like instead of feeling overwhelmed by like the pressure, see it as an opportunity to challenge yourself and be like, you know what am I capable of? You know, let's go ahead and like reach my potential. Where can I get to? So let's take that pressure and use it to fuel me, to motivate me and challenge me, right?
Yeah.
So I was gonna touch a little bit on that, because I can only imagine like there was like the fear that came in when he's like, let's see what you can do on your own, separated from me, right? So in that moment, how did you get past kind of that fear? Because I'm sure even though you already had like 7 years of experience by that point, right?
Yes, yeah.
You probably still were like, okay, this is gonna be like just me.
Well, my dad is very male dominated alpha, and so is my mom, and so they're really strong people, and I can be, you know, kind of timid and shy, but at the same time that side can come out. And so after hearing so many like, there's going to be negativity obviously in male dominated industry, and then I'm a girly girl too. I like my nails done, I like hair and makeup and stuff, so I'm going to keep true to who I am, but also work hard and prove that a woman can do that if she sets her mind to it. But you have to really put in the work and know what you're talking about. I went like and submerged yourself into the culture, into the industry. So I got into a program, and I would do what the drivers would do and get certified, and I would go to those classes, and I was the only girl in that class. And so that way I would learn what the J-hook was, know what the equipment was. So when the guys would talk to me about stuff, I knew exactly what they were talking about. And so with all that experience, and it was like, okay, this is really intimidating. This is an opportunity that a lot of people don't get. So what are you going to do with it? It's either sink or swim. You can either say, I'm intimidated, show me, and hold your, like, call my dad for everything, or show up and see what you're capable of, because this is a time to not only prove to him and to everybody else, but to yourself. And I think this is the push that I needed, and I had been praying to God, like, if this is for me, please show me. I don't know what to do with my life. Like, I'm overwhelmed with the stress in this industry. I don't know what to do. And this opportunity came right at that time, so I knew it was sent from God to really push me. And sometimes we don't understand why we're in those uncomfortable situations until we are, and we're like, this is where God wanted us. And so at that time I told my dad, hey, you know what, I need you to not come around the yard and I'm going to make this decision. If it's going to fail, we'll see if it fails in a year. Then I'll have to tell you and be like, come and help me. But at that time, I was just like, I need you to step away. And he doesn't really come around. I'll call him for advice, but for the most part, he doesn't really come around.
Yeah, and I completely understand where you're coming from on that, where like you kind of didn't want him to come around as much. Because in a way, also, when you're kind of coming from a place where you're provided this opportunity by like your dad or a family member, oftentimes people will kind of look down upon that in the sense where it's like, oh, well, it was just given to her, when in reality that's not really what happened. So in a way, you kind of have to work even harder, because on top of the fact that you're in a male dominated industry, you also have to like show people, hey, no, I am capable. I didn't just get this because of my dad or whatnot. I also had to learn everything, the process, and how to handle this business. So I have to prove this to you, because I don't know if you've dealt with this, but like I know I've run into situations where it's kind of like, oh, you don't even know anything. Your dad just kind of provided this for you.
Exactly.
Like, no, I'm going to show you. I do know.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just given to me. Like whether you're given opportunities or not, whether you have to draw your own door or whatnot, regardless, they all require like the knowledge and the work, and discipline. So in a way, I do kind of feel like in those instances, you do kind of even have to prove even further.
Yeah, exactly. It's what you do with it. So everyone has a start, right? It's where you start. It doesn't matter where you start. I think it's like what you do with it and where you end. So I'm very confident with that now, that if someone says, oh, well, of course it's going to be easy for her. She was given this. And it was like, okay, yeah, but it's one thing to be given it, and then it's another thing to maintain it and to work at it. So I'm very confident with telling someone, like, I do not care, you know, what you think, or because it's the waking up every day and continuing it every day and dealing with the stressors that come with it and not giving up. That's what's important. So it doesn't matter where you start, it's how you maintain it and keep going. So I totally agree with you on that. So
you talked about stressors like a few times. Like, what is a stressful common obstacle that you deal with at work?
I mean, I think in anything, in owning a business, and especially in this state with all the regulations and everything, like the first 4 months, to give you an example, I had purchased a brand new tow truck. It had not even 5,000 miles. And my driver crashed into somebody, and it was a severe accident and wrecked the brand new tow truck. Oh. And that turned into a lawsuit. The accident, I had a brand new tow truck that was wrecked, and I had to fix, go through the insurance, increases the insurance significantly. And so that type of stressor, employees, obviously, like mitigating them and like just trying to like balance their happiness and their turnover rate and making sure that they don't go to another tow company, but that they're also productive for the company. And so just those types of things, finances, the cost of like, how's the economy doing, inflation, if business is slow, or, it's just all those different types of factors that contribute to your day-to-day operations.
I mean, it sounds like your brain's always kind of spinning for something, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's a 24-hour business. I mean, I could get a call at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Hey, I was on my way to this call and the tow truck broke down. Like, okay, we need to figure out. There's always, So there's always a plan. You always have to have a plan B, C, and D, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. And so even with towing in itself, what is the business actually like? Is it a matter of like just advertising out that there's a towing company, that way you hope that if somebody needs a tow, they call you? Or what creates that revenue? What sort of things are required to grow the business? Yeah.
So there's a lot of different avenues that you can go down. So like, I don't know if you have AAA, but most people do. So they're one of the biggest providers. You can be associated with them, and they'll keep your call volume up, or have contracts with the city and be on the rotation with the police department for that city. That's another revenue. Or even private properties, commercial properties, where they just want you enforcing parking regulations and towing for apartment complexes and things like that. And also just the general public knowing you. So if you break down and you don't have AAA, or, you know, CHP isn't on the highway helping you out, and you just Google nearest tow company to help me, and
you
then they see you want, so then that goes to marketing and social media and SEO and all of that type of avenue, and just also word of mouth. I think if someone has a good experience with you, because I've heard really horror stories, they're going to tell, hey, call this tow company. They're fast, they're reliable, they're professional. And so
And what makes towing a male-dominated industry, other than the fact that like males are the ones that typically have the companies? Is it just something about cars that men are more likely to work in that industry?
Yeah, I think it's just the demand of the job, that it's usually a 24-hour business. It's 7 days a week. Most women aren't into cars. Most women aren't into tow trucks, and like, oh, I like towing cars. I mean, I did employ at one point a female, one of the only female tow truck drivers around in Southern California. And kudos to her, Rachel. I love you. She had long nails, and she would do her thing towing vehicles. So she was like my idol. I would look up to her and be like, how do you do that? And she just learned. She was like, and we would just talk about, you know, the struggles of like, you get the
J hook and you put it in.
Yeah, no, but like also being talked down to about like, oh, she can't do it, but she did it, and I'm so proud of her. She did it for about 30 years.
Yeah. Is that tough when you go into a meeting, you go into a contract negotiation, an agreement negotiation, and you walk in and they're probably expecting a man, and you all of a sudden like feel that type of energy where you have to like prove yourself? Like, how do you handle that?
Well, it took a lot of time and confidence and a lot of work with myself mentally and emotionally to just get out of my head and be like, look at everybody the same, and just, you have to educate yourself and know what you're talking about. You can't go into that room and just because who you are expect to get it, or because you're nice to them. Know what you're talking about, do your work, do your research, let your knowledge and your confidence speak for itself, and the rest is out of your control. And so once I started looking at it like that and taking it more black and white, it's just been a lot easier for me to handle those types of situations. And I think too, now more men are like accept it, because it's 2025. I mean, you know, there's kind of women everywhere in every industry, so I think it's more acceptable now.
We're taking over the world.
Yeah. A lot of women have paved the way for that, so I think it's easier now in that sense. I'm not going to say that there aren't those terco men that just like, no, I don't want to do business with you just because you're a woman, and that's fine. It's, you know, you can't control other people.
What are those actual meetings like? Are those negotiations tough? Is it like, no, this versus like you're very conflict oriented?
Yeah, no, they're actually a lot smoother. And unlike the city ones, it's just like proposing your bid and stuff, and they make it equal and across the board.
Got it.
It's not maybe like back in the day how it used to be with like a handshake and more intimidating and who you know and stuff. I think it's more professional
You're
now.
like, take his car off the tow. The negotiations went well.
Yeah, no. Thank God, no.
But I think it's a general consensus, like the towing industry kind of has a negative connotation because, and it sucks because people really only need tows for a negative reason.
Yeah.
How do you kind of fall in? Like, what's your perspective on that?
I mean, it's two things. It's either we're saving you or we're pissing you off.
No, we're disciplining you.
Yeah, we're disciplining
Just learn how to read signs.
Yeah. It's either one or the other. So I feel like it's like anything in life, like maybe like first responders or like police officers. I mean, not on their level, but like sometimes they're the villains and sometimes they're the heroes. You know, it just depends on the situation and the perspective. But at the end of the day, we're just providing a service. And I know that I'm running a legit professional company. I'm not doing anything to scam people or to get money, like, you know, cut people off or anything like that. So that's how I look at it.
Well, Richie, remember at one point you wanted to buy property where we needed to get a trailer towed, okay? So it was necessary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it's essential. But Okay, I read your article, which was amazing, by the way, in the
thank
Women
you.
in Towing, correct? Right?
Yeah.
It was really inspiring, and honestly, I'm going to put the link down. We're going to link it below so you guys can read it because it's a really great article that Laura wrote.
Yeah.
But I did read in there that you learned how to roll a vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay, so explain that because that sounds super cool.
That was at the class that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
It's a certification class to be able to tow. And so basically it's called like a rollover. So like, I mean, most of the time, if you're in an accident, sometimes the cars are going to roll over. And so they'll just show you where to chain the vehicle, how to bring it back down. And so I volunteered to do the demo, and they told me, I mean, they were there holding my hand.
Yeah.
And it's not like I've responded to a call.
Yeah.
I do not get okay. And just to clarify, I do not drive tow trucks. Like, you're not going to see me pulling your car. Like you're not gonna see. Yeah, I'm not gonna pull up.
Have you ever
I'm not gonna.
tried?
Yeah,
Like,
but
just to
like
see what
the
it
thing
feels
is,
like?
I do drive the
Yeah.
tow truck,
Oh,
and
okay.
like when it's not responding to calls, like if they need help towing vehicles to the junkyard, I'll help load up the cars and then drive them to the location. So I know how to function it and move the bed, and I'll drive it on the freeway. And some people are just like, "What the heck?" And I'm like, "Hey,
that would be a pretty
with
cool
my,
sight to see.
yeah, my glasses and my AirPods,
With
and
her
just
nice
like,
ass nails on the wheel. It's like, hey.
yeah. So I do know how to drive it. It's not like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to respond to the call when it's a serious accident. I don't have enough experience, and it's also very dangerous, and that's what I have my drivers for. So I can't do it all, but I am familiar with it.
Yeah, but you still learned it.
Yeah.
And the rolling over thing, it's like where they chain it in.
Yeah, they'll just chain it in certain locations and then bring the car down. It's very calculated too. There's a lot about like you need to know weight, angles, measurements. So yeah, kudos to like tow truck drivers. I feel like they're not like on the top of the.
They're first responders, right?
Yeah, I mean I wish they could be classified as that because they do get called right when an accident happens, and I mean they do see some gnarly stuff and help people in distress, but they risk their lives too because those highways are no joke, and people with texting and stuff, I mean it's really like there's a movement called Move Over Slow Down for a lot of tow truck drivers that lose their life on the highway because people crash into the tow truck or just an accident happens. So it is a serious job in that sense.
Because there's not a lot of space in the shoulder sometimes,
and
right?
people are going so fast,
and
distracted
sometimes just
driving.
even seeing them, how many cars they have like carrying behind them.
Yeah.
Just like, that's insane. Like,
Yeah.
So if you're driving to, let's say, a grocery store and your car breaks down, do you Uber yourself back to your yard, pick up your tow, and then pick up your car? Or
no, usually if it's in the area, I'll just call the tow truck and be like, "Hey
got
guys,
it.
I broke down. Can you come pick me up?" That hasn't happened, thank God.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
good. That's
yeah.
good. So,
Okay.
does that mean you're a big fan of like Karens because they're the ones that are going to be the ones to call the police or like
That's
employ
true.
them?
Technically, you want to be on the good side.
I love the Karens. Shout out to the Karens.
Tow that thing. They're in the way.
They're enforcing it. Yeah. I mean, hey, if everyone else has to pay the registration, why do they get away with it, you know? Or
the Ford Focus, right? You could have got
my
towed.
Ford Focus would have been towed. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
The 2006 Ford
I was so
Focus.
close to getting towed, but it didn't happen, so we're good.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever been towed.
Yeah.
My car has ever been towed. I've been close to it getting towed. Have you? Have
know,
any of you
yeah.
guys know?
I've been towed so many times, especially
You've
when
been towed.
really?
it's because I had like a beater car.
Okay.
It was like a low to the ground Honda Civic, so like the tires would always pop. It was like a really cheap car. The transmission, the Bulla transmission, I remember one time it was like leaking coolant, so it was like a fire in the front of it. I was just still driving it too.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, I gotta call a tow.
But was your car ever impounded? Because there's a difference between it getting towed and it being impounded.
Oh, I guess I've never had my car impounded.
Wait, so what's the difference?
Well, being towed is because you're requesting the service. Like if your car broke down, like if it overheated, the tire change, or just it's not turning on. Impounded is usually by the police that because you didn't have a driver's license or your registration was expired or driver arrested for DUI.
Yeah.
then your car gets taken away and into an impound yard. And then that's where I get the fun-loving customers that are,
because they want their
you
car
stole
out.
my car. Like, it's your fault that I didn't pay my registration for a year and a
And now I
half.
have to pay these extra towing fees.
Yeah, now I have to pay like $1,200 because it gets pricey. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I'm
Well, they
like,
should have paid their registration. Pay your registration, guys.
Exactly.
How does that? Because I think after a car is impounded, if they can't pay, like if it's like a beater car that they can't take out, like it goes to auction, right?
Yeah, so we start a lien after 3 days of the vehicle being impounded in the yard. We can legally start a lien, and if they don't, and that's through DMV and everything.
Yeah.
If they don't pick up the vehicle within 30 days, it depends on the value of the vehicle. There's a lot of like legality to it, but depending on that, then we keep the car legally, and then I have an auction, a public car auction once a month, and then I sell them. So I use that revenue too as a source of income.
Oh, okay. So like in addition to towing, I'm sure there's times where you have to like start somebody's battery, tire changes, and then also impounding.
Yeah.
Like, there's different sources of revenue for it.
Yes, lockouts if people leave their cars and their keys, or
Oh, that's happened to
the
me.
keys in the
Same,
car.
that's
Yeah,
happened.
yeah.
So that was a towing company that probably came to save me.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
How'd you
Yeah.
leave your
It's happened to me like
keys in?
twice.
Oh, okay. Well, how
I
did
just-
that happen?
I was just leaving.
Your head was somewhere
Well,
else.
I had
huh?
the Ford Focus, so it wasn't like the best. It was like 2006 Ford Focus. It was like older, like it still
Yeah.
had the little like roll down windows, you know. So
Okay.
it
That's not
wouldn't.
that old school. Like, yeah,
It's pretty old school.
Yeah,
No
that
one-
is old
literally
school.
No one, yeah,
Yeah.
that's insane. No one rolls down the windows anymore. If you
Yeah.
do, it's an older car.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I would just like, you know how usually like the cars now they beep when it's like, oh, your keys are in here. your
Yeah,
keys are in here.
exactly.
So
Thank
obviously
God
that
for
wouldn't
that.
give me that alert, and then I would lock it before. It was so dumb. I don't know why. I would lock it before so that way I wouldn't forget before I
Yeah.
got out. But
Yeah.
then once it was locked, and then I would forget the keys in there, and they're like, dang it,
Yeah.
the keys are in there.
did you try to like take it out yourself? Like you put like the coat hanger in there and you're like trying to angle it?
I did think about it, but I was like, you know, that's not pretty. Or that's not realistic.
Yeah, let me just call.
It's not gonna happen. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess I have been saved by a towing company.
So you've had
there
a
you go.
positive
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the most part, it is positive.
Yeah. Managing being a business owner, but also being like a human being. Like, is it, you work long hours? Like, is it hard to disconnect? What does
Yeah.
disconnecting mean to you?
Yeah, work-life balance. Yeah. In the beginning, it was hard work, but I feel like once you have your solid team, your manager, your staff, and everyone is on board about your vision and your goal, then it's a lot easier to get away. But it's kind of like, they say there's like mom guilt. Have you heard of that? Like,
No.
okay.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, mom guilt.
Sorry,
you know, like,
it's like a
yeah.
It's kind of like dad guilt.
Yeah. So like women that just had their baby, and then if they go back to work
yeah.
or
Okay, that makes
vacation, and then
sense.
they feel bad. So I call it like work guilt, like because I'm always at work, and so then if I leave for vacation or something, it's hard for me to not think about work, and I feel guilty. I'm like, I should be at work. What if something happens? And so I had to be like, okay, look, when you go to work, when you're on vacation, or when you're with your family, learn to just enjoy that time. Work, the problems are going to be there regardless.
Yeah.
Whether when you come or go, you're still going to have to deal with it. So just enjoy where you're at that moment. So it just took a matter of time and experience.
What about even what makes, when you're coming up with like a good team, like you're making a good team, how do you, like, what sort of qualities do you look for in like the people that you hire that are a part of your team that are like make you feel secure?
Yeah. Well, I have only 5 employees. And so obviously I want to grow to a bigger business, more locations, more trucks. But the start is really hard. It's like, I understand why they say like businesses that start at, if they're going to be successful, it's going to show in the first 5 years, because it really takes a long time to get your core people. Make sure you have a good team that's going to take on a lot of the weight, because it's not easy in the beginning. And it's going to be 3 years this April. And I mean, I do have a good start because the business was already established. I just acquired a business. So it did have a reputation, but I want to grow it. So it's just about finding people that think like you, that are motivated like you, that are going to have good work ethic, be honest, and also that just want to show up to work.
Yeah.
That I find really hard. It's just like people are like, I need a job, but then are always calling off, and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Oh, gotcha. You have to look for like essentially the same qualities that you have.
Yes, exactly.
So you had previously said before we talked, leading up to this, that you were really working on like the social media marketing aspect of it and how like you've outsourced it.
I knew I had to do it because I did a leadership business program with Goldman Sachs last year, and one of the classes was talking about social media and marketing, and it's kind of one of those things where you have to immerse yourself in it. It's like you got to get with it. And so especially like TikTok and things like that, you want your business to stand out.
Yeah.
And prior to me owning this company, it didn't even have a website. So it had
Wow.
no social media presence or even internet presence. And so I was like, okay, it's 2025, or well, at that time, 2024. I need to really, are people talking about tow companies and stuff? And my cousin, who actually works at Dedicas Towing with my uncle, he started a YouTube channel, I think about a couple years ago. And he's at like over 100,000 subscribers.
So we need to get you guys.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, but his videos are crazy. Like he has like thousands of dollars into his equipment, drones, and they have the big wreckers at heavy duty. And so you guys have to check it out. I'll send it to you. But he's doing the drones of how he's recovering like the tractor trailers and the accidents, and really gnarly, and has grown like a fan base on it, like from all over the world. And he's consistent with it. And I was just like, I got inspired by him, and I was like, I mean, who cares about towing? But then I would see his videos and I was like hooked, and I saw how many people were engaged, and I was like, well, we need to try this out. But we also have to identify our strengths and weaknesses. And I'm like, and that is not my strength. So I need to outsource it. And I did some research and had some help along the way. But one of my best friends, Gabby, shout out to Gabby. I love her so much. I asked her, hey, do you think you can help me with my social media? Like, my manager's somewhat familiar with it, but train him for some time. And she's really good at taking pictures and social media. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, I'll pay you. And I did that as an accountability because I know my friend, and she was going to be like, yeah, I'll get it to you next week. Next week would turn into next month. So paying her would then hold her accountable to it. And she's good with like keeping up with the trends and stuff like that, and just making fun of it. And also to show that we're not always the villains, and we're not just the people that are kind of have that bad rep of just,
So even within your team, what sort of culture do you like to develop between your team? Do you want it to be like, hey, this is super professional? Like, what's sort of the culture that you try to have at work?
Yeah, I mean, when I interview most of the drivers, I'm like, I know this is probably not your normal having a woman, boss and stuff like that, but I do like to keep it professional. I do set like boundaries just because, to keep everyone, in check, and just legality reasons, but also humanize it. I really feel, because it's a small private company, like maybe a bigger, like Amazon or something, not to shade, but like you're just like kind of a number because there's so many people. But I really try to connect with my employees and ask like, how's your family? What are you doing? Like, get to know them and kind of help where I can outside of just the work. Yeah. I feel like you gain more respect and loyalty from your employees by doing that. Some people take advantage of that and don't care, or it can just be negative. But to me, I feel, God blesses you to be a blessing. And that's really another motivator to why I like owning a business, because when you are blessed, it's like, hey, if someone needs help, you're able to do that. So that's really important to me.
So even on the business side of things, like, has that been challenging? Have you always been entrepreneurial in like the side of like building revenue, margin, like profit, or was that a skill that you developed over time?
I think it was a skill that I developed over time. I think that obviously it has to be in you. You have to have certain characteristics. I'm a really type A personality. So it's like time is really important to me. I'm like very checklist type of person, goal oriented. So those things have been in my favor, obviously, in business. But the hustle, it has to be in you, in your blood. my dad is like a whole other animal, and I look up to him and I'm just like, he's like thinking when he even sleeps, and I'm just like, how, I'm not at that level, and I had to learn to be like, you know what, he's his own person and it's worked for him, but I couldn't compare myself and think like, hey, it's your own lane, and just carry on like what feels good, what drives you, and just immerse yourself into it. So listen to podcasts, read books. Like, it's just like working out, right? If you really want to reach a goal, what are you going to do to sacrifice to get to that goal? Eating better, making wiser choices. And I think with your business, it's the same thing. How can I'm a tool to my business. How can I sharpen my tool to be the biggest asset for your business? Because ultimately, the business owner is the biggest asset of the company. You set the tone for the company. So how you are, the way you come into the business, the vibe that you get in, all your employees are going to feed off of that. So it's really important that you're sharp into that. So I had to learn that with maturity. It did not come right away. I can't say that I've always been like this. It came with time, because I was like, hey, I'm given a really good opportunity that a lot of people don't. I need to take advantage of it, and really for the good. And how are you going to do that? And so it was like more of a test to myself of like, this is what you have. What are you going to make of it?
Yeah. Well, that's powerful.
I know. I was like, I feel like I'm in a TED Talk right now.
Yeah.
I think one day you're going to give a TED Talk. I'm calling it.
I was like, you're speaking to my soul right now. What the heck? I was like, how'd you know all those things about me?
Yeah. Laura, I literally feel like just going to my office space right now and sharpening my skills. Like, I got to get on. I'm motivated now. But you also mentioned a little bit in the article, I know you talked about too, about the developing tough skin.
Yeah,
right? Which was something else you had to work on.
Yeah, I mean, I know as Latinos, we already have to have tough skin because our family, our parents, from small childhood trauma, are be like, hey, gorda, or this. I'm like, I think that's a little rude, but but it's normal, right?
You have to really take it.
Wait, they told me you would do that with your employees as well. Oh no, sorry, wrong person.
No. I'd be out of business if that were the case nowadays. Yeah, you have to be very careful. Yeah. I may think it. No, just kidding.
No. She doesn't think it. Everybody looks good.
No, just kidding. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. No. It just came with time and a lot of crying. There was a lot of crying in the shower. Yeah. So it was a lot. Like I said, it took a lot of time to get to the confidence and having a core. I guess it's just to, like, when I talk about tools and what do you use to like work-life balance, right? So for toughening skin, so I would say my recipe to developing that was it starts with yourself. But my two biggest things was my circle and my faith in God. And so I think that's what carried me through. Like, how do I get through this? Because it can get really dark, and a lot of people don't understand you. And none of my friends are into this type of work, mostly like medical and other types of fields.
Industrial gas.
Yeah, industrial gas now. Real estate. So it's different. So I was like, I don't have anyone to go to vent about this. And, my parents wouldn't understand, could be like, do you know how hard I had it? What are you crying about it? You have it so easy.
They always minimize our struggles.
Yeah. So it's just like, I can't express it to anybody. And I would feel so trapped and stuff. And when I felt like insecure about things or talked down to. So I really just pray to God, and it was that faith is number one, and then just my circle of friends and family. But yeah, my friends, they know who they are. LTC, shout out to them. I would call them and just vent to them and just be like, I don't think I can do this. And they would just motivate me, and they're like, you got this, you motivate us, like, and they would just give me that light. So those two things really have pushed me to like just have that confidence.
Yeah. Okay, but what's your best towing joke?
Oh God. I'm not really a funny person, honestly.
You're funny. You're
no.
funny.
Like, I'm really cringe. So,
But the cringe is kind of the best, right? Because when you're cringe, you're naturally being yourself, and like if that's cringy to other people. Well, who cares? That's their problem.
I'm just thinking of like when you're like funny joke, because my sisters one time put me on a hot spot. They were like good at rapping and stuff.
Oh,
and
you're gonna
like,
rap for us?
No. And we were like in the kitchen. We were in the kitchen, and they're like, "Come on, Raina, it's your turn to rap." And I was like cooking something, and I'm like,
I'm whipping it up here.
I'm like, I'm in the kitchen cooking up some stew, and then I like couldn't go anywhere from there. And they're like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "I told you I'm not good at this." And so they helped me take over it. And so, I mean, yeah, it's just really, not my thing. But I mean, I'll just go with, I have a liner.
Yeah.
And this is like disclosure. I don't really tell people where I got this or the behind story. But like usually for introductions at political events or just networking events, I'll introduce myself and give like my little elevator speech. And so I'll say at the end, so Foglesong Towing, if you blow it, we'll tow it. And a lot of people like laugh at it. And then some people are just like, that was dumb. But
no, you leave like room for like applause and laughs.
Yeah,
like,
and then the next time people are like, that girl, like, if you blow it, we'll tow it. And I'm just like, I don't know if I want to be associated with that, but you know, it kind of sticks. So unless I come up with something else, do you have an idea of something else?
The marketing maybe to your best friend.
Yeah.
I feel like the next time I need some toy shirts, so I call Focus. I'm like, guys, I blew it.
So can you come tow it? And they're gonna be like, what is going on today?
You really gotta J-hook them.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even know what a J-hook is.
Yeah, but I don't really have that many. I guess I need to look into that. But yeah, I mean, that's my only catchy phrase that I come up with.
I didn't even check to see if it was in the Instagram bio. For the Focus. Is it there?
I don't think so. I don't think my friend even knows about that.
Oh, it's something same person.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's like a tower that's called, I saw the tow truck somewhere, and it's like the best hooker in town.
But they're all terrible for like a women's owned business. Like,
well, no, that was another tower. I'm not saying. And I just looked at that tow truck and I was just like, yeah, I mean, it's funny, but I'm like, I don't want to apply for a police contract and it be like the best hooker in town. You know, it's not.
So we have the best hooker in town. If you blow it, we'll tow it.
And shout out to that tow company, but I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Got to keep it professional, classy. You know what I mean? So. But yeah, that would be my joke, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's good. I love it. Yeah, but without further ado, we have a segment. It's called
I'm scared. It's not really a TikTok cringy dance, right?
We're just talking about cringy stuff.
Okay.
Get ready for the TikTok.
I'm scared.
Yeah, so it's our next segment, and it's Unqualified Advice.
I'm like, okay.
Cringy at all, right? You just felt super uncomfortable back there.
She was just like, what's going on?
Okay, guys, what is this?
So this is literally the segment where.
So in this segment, we go through Reddit and we look at different subreddits and people ask questions. So it's like adulting type of questions. So we do our best to provide advice, but since we're in no means experts in anything, we give it and give them the context that it's unqualified advice.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So for today's unqualified advice, we have this Reddit user. He's called Finda Reddit. No, sorry, RA3JYX. Anyways, whatever. We don't need to look him up.
Don't give him a shout out.
That's true. We should get paid for that shout out, huh? Okay, freshly 21 and living kind of on my own. I'm in college in an apartment with 3 roommates. I generally have a lot of random adulting questions, but I really need to get an answer on this. I keep forgetting that I'm 21 and can literally just buy alcohol now. Why is it socially acceptable to drink wine by yourself, but not hard alcohol? Maybe even drink some wine by myself while making or eating dinner, but like, is that an acceptable thing to do? Would it not be weird and lonely to get drunk by myself? Oftentimes, I want to just have a small drink, but I don't necessarily want to get drunk. Some drinks are just yummy. So what would be your best advice?
So take it back to the Thirsty Thursday days. Take it back to college.
I'm like, only one drink. I don't know what that's like.
So,
Wait, so you've never drank at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really that much of a drinker either.
Okay, yeah.
But I know when I first started dating my husband, I usually don't drink. So when we go out to restaurants, he would be like, "Oh, I'm ordering this beer. What are you gonna get?" And I'm like, "Nothing." Well then, dang it! If you should told me we we're gonna drink, because then I wouldn't have drink. And I'm just like, I didn't know that was a thing. Like, you can drink. I don't have to drink. He's like, no, because I'm drinking by myself. Yeah. So I'm like, so that's the moment I knew that it is a thing where people don't like to drink by themselves. But why? Like, what would be that advice? Like our advice for this 21-year-old? I think the only one who drinks here is probably Richie.
I mean, I don't even drink that often either. I drink only socially. So
same. I think if it just like brings you peace and you're relaxed and you're in your home and you're comfortable, then, you measure that. But I think if it's like, like where you're like, get all emotional and want to like start texting people and FaceTiming everybody and be like, hi. And like, then,
that's what you do, huh? That's what you do? That's why you had to stop?
I go to college,
She's like thinking right now her Thirsty Thursday days. She's like, oh man.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that everyone knows their level and like what makes you feel comfortable. I feel like if you feel like it's out of hand, it's probably because it is. But each to their own, I think. I
agree. Yeah. I like to romanticize the idea of like coming home and having like a glass of wine to de-stress, And sometimes I want to do it because it sounds like cute and like girly and fun. It's like, oh, I'm going to come home and I'm going to put my face mask while I drink a glass of wine. Yeah. But then I'll look at the wine. I'm like, oh, I have to open it and then I have to close it again. I don't even like the taste that much.
Laziness, like, you don't do it?
Yeah.
Well, because honestly, because I don't even know how you're supposed to store wine back correctly if you don't finish it.
Yeah.
Because I've heard you have to finish the whole bottle or something.
Put it in the
fridge. You put it in the fridge. And you put a little cap thing. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Jesse always makes.
I don't know how to store it. I'm going to have to drink the whole thing.
I think we have another problem we got to talk about. No, just kidding.
Well, because we never open bottles of wine because Jesse always says we need to finish the whole bottle of wine or we can't open it.
I never heard that.
I never heard that either until I met Jesse.
I don't know where you got that from. Maybe you made that up.
Because of that, we never drink wine. Because like, we're not going to finish the entire glass of wine, the entire glass bottle. Yeah. So we'll only open it when we have guests over. So I can't even. That romanticized idea of drinking my glass of wine. It's like, oh, well, no, because then I have to finish it and I'm not going to finish it. So in a way, it's kind of good, right? Yeah. Because then it keeps me away from alcohol. But.
Yeah.
And I think like you were getting at a good point, because I think a lot of people that whether they struggle with like anxiety or just having a hard time disconnecting from a hard day, I think alcohol can be used as a crutch for, okay, like I had a hard day. I don't have other tools to really be able to unwind and kind of relax. So like in that case, like maybe it's not a bad thing, right? Yeah. It's just understanding that it's a very temporary solution that you don't want to continue doing. Like you have to have other tools.
Yeah, you have to monitor it and you have to be your judge on that. Like, how often am I doing this? Is it productive? So I would just measure it like that, like what you're talking about.
But occasionally, if you have trouble like relaxing, like it is a great way to relax, to create an environment, sort of a vibe. So like if that's the case, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. So if it's a Friday night and it's your kind of treat for the week for working really hard, as long as you monitor it, you understand that, hey, maybe I should have other things instead also. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with coming home, drinking some wine, having some liquor.
With the face mask on.
Yeah.
While you're cooking up dinner.
You need to do that. You need to
I don't know. I really want to do it. Yeah. On my vision board.
Yeah. There you go.
And it doesn't have to be wine. It could be like tequila. It's better to digest. And like you're going to not going to wake sugar. Up. Yeah. No hangover the next day. Exactly. So it doesn't have to be wine. The goal is to relax.
So that's our advice. You can drink by yourself. Just
you're
know
totally
your limits.
Fine. Know your limits.
Yeah. Know how you get. So, that being said, we have reached the end of our episode. We look forward to seeing you next week. Remember, the links will be put down below for her article and also her Instagram. So follow her at, is it Foglesong Towing?
Yeah, Foglesong Towing and TikTok too.
Yeah, we'll link it down below. But thank you so much, Laura, for joining us. We're so glad you're officially part of the society.
Yeah, and like really motivational, like inspirational, like it like somebody, you're like very mature too, so it's like like so interesting to see sort of your take on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And if you ever need a tow, now you know who to call in the Inland Empire.
Yeah. If you blow it.
Yeah, if you blow it, we'll tow it.
Yeah.
We'll tow it.
Thank you guys for like creating this like safe space and just like talking about these conversations that most people want to hear about, like just the how did you get there, and like I want that, but they don't want to talk about like how did you get there and what is your story and how to like motivate and encourage people, because we're stronger together. I always tell my team that. So it's just how can we help each other be the best versions of ourselves. So thank you guys.
It's beautiful. Thank you. I'm leaving this inspired for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
You forgot to say bye.